How's it going, everyone? We're back with another weekly watch list. Thank you so much for checking in on the video. Hopefully you've been checking out some other watch lists as well, growing and learning with me as we go through these markets. We're coming up on 2 years of doing these watch lists, which is crazy. And it's just really cool to see my trading, how much it has progressed, how much it's been more refined. That does not mean I am making any money from trading, that I'm highly profitable, nothing like that yet, but I'm getting closer and closer, and I feel tremendously confident in that. So appreciate you clicking on the video, watching the video. Let's jump right in. All right, so first things first, we're looking at QQQ. Okay, we had some data over the weekend about the tariff pause and a lot of it, tariffs being exempt on, tech and chip stocks, things like that. So, with that news, I do expect QQQ to maybe retest this gap up here at 468 and potentially move up to this next supply at 481. So if we get over the previous day high here, we do have this supply zone, this 2 hour and 4 hour supply zone here before hitting that gap. But because we do have that gap that I know we already have tested, that's going to be like a stronger area for me, right? So if we go to the 4 hour, right, we had this 4 hour zone that we already tested once and rejected. We're coming to test it again. Not as strong now as those orders have been filled. There could be obviously some stragglers, but we do have this 2 hour, again, came up, tested it, rejected it. We could test it again. So really up over previous day high. Next move would be up to 459 and then 463 and then the gap. And then we have 3 hour supply up here at 480. If we break below the previous day low, my next zone is going to be down here at 432 and the 61 fib. But below that, we have a lot of room back down to 409. So God forbid, I want my long-term portfolio to be back doing well. Nah, just kidding. But anyways, let's go over to NQ. So looking at NQ on the 4 hour. So we did have this 4 hour supply. Same thing. I took away this zone just because we're already chewing through it a little bit. So we do have this 4 hour supply. The top, where it starts, it also happens to be the 2 hour wick, and it's right at 19,000. So really, I'm just thinking like whole slide numbers here. Like we get over this 19,000, we're going to head to the next area of liquidity, would be this other supply zone I have up here, this 3 hour, 1 hour, 4 hour supply all up here. We'll break that down in a second, but we do have this 2 hour supply zone that we, again, already came up and rejected out of. So we do need to get over 19,000. I believe we'll head up to this next supply zone. As far as support goes, we had the 50 fib and 18,000 that we bounced off. Below that, we have the daily body of that daily supply that we had from last week, right? Which we did bounce around off the wick of, right? So we have this daily supply zone right here, the small red followed by large green. The zone here we dipped in and now we're bouncing out of. So I do believe that is bullish up to this next supply. If we go up to the 4 hour, if we go over the 4 hours, a little bit of it here, not really, I wouldn't really consider that major supply, but 3 hour and 1 hour for sure. So if we head over to the 3 hour, on the 3 hour, let's see, because I clearly have it here. I believe I have 3 hours. This might be a typo. Because I do have, as I'm looking, this might be, because again, this is from, a week or two ago when I marked out this zone. I may have considered this being a 3 hour supply, this very small green and this red here, but clearly as we can see now, not nearly as aggressive. So I'll probably edit that. But if we go over to the 1 hour, I'm pretty sure there's pretty obvious 1 hour supply. So yes, definitely 1 hour supply. We have the 1 hour right here. We have the 1 hour supply wick and body right here together. And there was also this 4 hour pivot. Like if we go to the 4 hour chart, it was this pivot on the chart for a while here, right? Let's see. I think it was, I believe here. Yeah. So we had touched again, and then we ripped through it here. So I kept it on the chart. So again, key area of interest. But this whole 3 hour situation, I'm probably just going to mark that out as the 1 hour. Just because, yeah, I'll do that here. Edit this down to 1 hour. And what we can do is, this will just be the green candle, and we'll get rid of this here. So this whole zone up here is going to be supply. And I know technically, we'd have to go to the wick of the red candle, but I also going to go to the wick of the green candle just because this is such a large wick here. I believe there was some data going on when we had this happen. But nonetheless, we get over 19,000. Next area of liquidity is going to be up here at 19,600, right? So let's head over to SPY and ES. So again, be very similar look. Over the previous day high, for on here on the 1 hour, I do have a 2 hour supply zone, right? So on the 2 hour, we have a very clear 2 hour supply zone, already rejected out of it once. Inside that 2 hour supply zone, we also have 45-minute supply, right here as well. So all these marked out over previous day high, pushing here. Maybe we get a little bit of reject. Maybe we hold the previous day high. You know, we'll see, and head back up towards the next gap. So if we go over, if we are going to be bullish this week, if we are going to move up, there is one more gap to fill on SPY, and that's going to be up here at 556. So really over the previous day high, you know, I'm looking at probably a retest here at 548, but above that, a straight shot to 555. Again, same thing as QQQ, below the previous day low. Next supply demand zone is going to be 509, and the 61 fib, of course, we're going to have to break that, and then we have a lot of room down to 488. So let's head over to ES. Looking at ES, again, futures, I don't trade futures, but I just mark out supply and demand for confluence for my trades on SPY and QQQ. But we do have this 2-hour supply zone, just like on SPY. 2-hour supply rejected off at once. We're already getting a wick at it again, so we need to see how that opens up this evening. We might gap above it. We'll see. And then, of course, we had that same kind of situation with the 4-hour. We had this 4-hour supply right here. We already rejected out of it once. I took it off the chart, but the top of that wick I am keeping here in case we get a rejection there. So as far as demand goes, we did bounce off the daily demand zone and the 61 fib. So no puts unless we get, if we're down here, I'm not going to be looking for any shorts unless we get below this 51.30 essentially, right? As far as gaps, there aren't any gaps on ES, but if we look over this 2-hour supply, we have 5,500. Above that, 55.68 is my next area for a rejection, and then above that we have daily supply. So next major area of liquidity would be this daily supply up here, right here. Okay, so it's going to be all the way to 57.48. So if we look over at SPX, you know, if you see my other watch lists, they are simply just a daily high and low. It's super simple, super easy to follow. It works extremely well every single day. We get respect at them every single day, and it helps for confluence on my SPY and QQQ trades. And then I just mark the whole psych numbers in between. We usually get a lot of action around those as well. So above the previous day high, we do have 5,400 just above. But my next area really is going to be up here at 5,500, and really this gap. I mean, SPX, sorry, I hate saying it like that because if you get my point. But I always say it like that for short. But SPX, excuse me, SPX, you know, to fill this gap up here at 55.68 seems a lot more likely. Okay, so anyways, below the previous day low, I do have 5,200 just below, but really the next one, the next daily low down here, 51.14, okay? And then lastly, IWM, again, I might just exclude these from the watch list at this point. I do mark the daily high and low every day, but that's it. Above the previous day high, I don't trade anymore. 185, next area of resistance can be 192. Break below the previous day low, next area of demand is going to be at 171. Very, very simple. But that's going to wrap up the watch list for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, being a part of this journey with me truly does mean the world to me. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and a great week inside and outside the markets.